Also, there's one aspect that what is the availability of the materials? This is something that is maybe more concerned, because I think that from the manufacturing point of view, we have no objections to the sustainability. And basically we are driven by brands, and I guess brands are driven by the consumer demand and regulations.
Welcome back to Nutricosmetics 2030 Sustainable Beauty Inside Out live event. I'm your host, Matic Batagel. I'm a business strategist working as an advisor for the TOSLA Nutricosmetics marketing team, as well as the co-host of the industry-specific podcast called the Nutricosmetics 2030 Show. We are continuing today's event with our next panel. We will focus more on the supply side of nutricosmetics industry now, and see how they're focusing on their efforts for more sustainable practices. To discuss that, we invited 4 guests. I don't see all 4, so maybe another one will join us. But we tried to get guests from different parts of the supply chain, and the first is Primož Artač, founder and CEO of TOSLA Nutricosmetics, a liquid nutricosmetics manufacturer. Hello, Primož. How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
Hi. Next, we have Andreas Kunze, key account manager from the company Jamnik, who is providing printed packaging. Welcome, Andreas. It's great to have you here.
Hi, Matic. Thanks for having me.
And next we have Rok Miklavčič from Mica D.o.o, a company specialized in production of a wide array of plastic bottles. Hello, Rok, and welcome.
Hi, Matic. Thanks for that introduction.
And the last, I don't think we have Alessandro Solcia. He's supposed to join us, so maybe he will join us later. Let's hope. But without further ado, let's just get straight into our conversation. But before we start, of course, as every time, call to our audience to submit any questions you might have throughout the debate, or for our speakers, you can submit them directly in the chat box here in Zoom, and we'll take some time to get to that, to answer them. So let's get into our conversation. And this first question is for all of you. So from your point of view, what do you think are the biggest influences for introducing sustainable practices and changes in the supply chain? Is it the consumer demand or something else? So we can just start right with Primož Artač.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I would say that it's primary influence by consumer, cemented by regulation or legislation. And I would add also the third factor is profitability during the energy crisis. Who had the solar panels, he could produce their own energy. I would also maybe add, because there was a lot of talks about the big brands and the small brands and the sustainability. I would say that there's a little bit of misconception when it comes to sustainability. I would not necessarily say that the big brands are not driven by sustainability efforts. I just think that they are maybe less risk averse. So they are thinking about the safety of the food. And they are maybe more active on some other areas like social governance, also energy, like energy consumption. And I guess this is it from my side.
Okay, so we can continue with the Rok. So what is your opinion? What are the biggest influences here for introducing those practices?
From my point of view, I would highly agree with what Primož already said. So part is, of course, consumer-driven, part is legislation, as he's pointed out, and the third one is also, and I would say that the biggest one in the last year is the high cost of energy and all the resources we use, especially in Europe. And from that side, I would say that in this part of the sustainability, it's also supplier driven, because we all have to do more in order to be competitive. And of course, this goes hand in hand with sustainability, because of course, if you want to be competitive, you have to use less resources to do more. And in that case, also then the sustainability part comes in hand with that. So this is what, from my point of view, I would say that I would concur totally with what Primož already said, and emphasize also the last part, basically the rising costs that also then affect to all of us to be more sustainable.
Yeah, and I already see a little bit of a different pattern to the other conversations, that maybe the supply side, let's say the manufacturers, the packaging providers, are focusing on a little bit of a different aspects. So here there is a lot of talk about energy consumption, how energy became way more expensive, and trying to basically manufacture it like more sustainable with solar panels and things like that. So Andreas, what is your take on that?
Yeah, I would totally agree with Primož and Rok from an economic point of view. Of course, we're also forced to save energy, money wherever we can, of course. But I think the consumer point of view, the consumer demand is really an important role, and not only the demand, but the awareness for the environment. And what I'd like to add is, I heard in the panel before us, somebody was talking about the media that surrounds us with news of floods and stuff like that. And especially here in Slovenia, we had a big flooding a few months ago, which also impacted on our company, on our cellar. It was flooded completely, which doesn't happen a lot of times. So the awareness of people when buying things for their needs, it is heavily influenced by sustainability aspects, and also the people that work in our company, because this is something that will grow bigger in all our minds. So this is the only thing I would like to add, because otherwise I totally agree with Primož and Rok.
May I just add something? Also, there's one aspect that what is the availability of the materials? This is something that is maybe more concerning, because I think that from the manufacturing point of view, we have no objections to the sustainability, and basically we are driven by brands, and I guess brands are driven by the consumer demand and regulations. But let's assume that maybe Rok will have a better explanation for this, but let's assume that all the big brands decide to use recycled PET. So will there be enough recycled PET for the small brands then? Rok, maybe you can help us out here.
That's the question we'll probably know in a few years' time. But as you said, yeah, of course, that's the biggest problem, is that the legislation is kind of course, accelerating the drive towards sustainability, but on the other hand, it's also creating problems, because the infrastructure to sustain this sustainability, especially in packaging and plastic, is not yet there. So basically, we have kind of two different approaches that don't go like next to each other, but can go separate ways. Because on one hand, you have big suppliers that, of course, take most of the material that's basically on the market, taking also the availability for smaller suppliers such as us, and of course, suppliers that tend to get into sustainability in plastic, but cannot. Of course, that's one problem. The other problem is that, on the other hand, the big suppliers, because also in terms of marketing, are searching for like holy grail packaging that could maybe exchange plastics. And of course, then come combinations of paper with plastics, with glass, and all kinds of combinations that then defragment the waste stream. Because in order to have additional amount of plastics in the upcoming years, of course, you have to have unified waste streams so that you have enough waste to produce recycled plastics. If you defragment that with, I don't know, like different solutions that each supplier of cosmetics, food, then develops by himself, that of course means that there will be less supply for all other participants in the market. One thing that is good is that plastics was number one villain a couple of years ago already, like being the top polluter, the top environmental problem, which of course accelerated the whole drive towards having enough recycled content. And in these terms, it's already a little bit up ahead, because we already have now at the moment enough material, because everybody wanted to still maintain plastics as a packaging solution, and that could be only done at that time with recycling. And that's why we are kind of still in front of in the supply side in comparison to the demand side. But as you said, in a couple of years' time, it could be edgy in this regard.
Yeah, because here, as I understand, the supply chains in place right now, they are established, they're old, they were built over a lot of years. And right now, basically, if we have this big consumer demand for something that is, let's say, more sustainable, but basically, if there is not enough of it, some brands might start to see that maybe they won't have like enough products to sell, and this is again not sustainable for the business. What is your take on that? Maybe.
Yeah, of course, that could present a problem, of course. But the thing is that in order to have, first of all, in order to have enough material, you at the moment also need, new material. It can be done without new materials. In order to recycle it, you always have to have a certain degree of new material in order to have the quality, to have the mechanical and chemical properties of the material. So there will always have to be an amount of new material, because of course, as glass and everything else, with more recycled loops, the quality of the material gets lower, of course. That's one part. But the other part is that without proper legislation improving and not accelerating, but emphasizing the importance of recycling the plastics we already produce, we won't have the material. So one thing is go step by step, as it is now, that now for the next year, 25% of recycled content in bottles of soft drinks and drinks. That's one way to go. But future steps, especially probably in combination of private sector and government sector, will have to be done in order to have waste streams that are, of course, clean, that are safe, which is also very important, and that are big enough for all the demand that will arise in the future is needed. But I don't know how this will be then handled, but it could get potentially into a position that there will not be enough material for all the suppliers. How that will then affect also all of us in order to present the products to the market. That's the thing I cannot answer right now, because frankly said, I don't have the answer. Everything I would say would be a wild guess.
Okay, thank you, Rok. I think you offered a great answer anyway. And we are finally joined also by Alessandro Solcia, the production manager from Arca Sleeves, the producer of shrink sleeves packaging solutions. Hello, Alessandro. How are you?
Hello, Matic. Thank you. Sorry for the delay. I have a little problem with the last PC, so I shift PC. So now I'm in.
No problem. And let's get you right in the conversation. And I have already the next question. It's we're gonna start with Alessandro, but like it's for all of you. How crucial do you think the collaboration within the industry? So within with the different players is to achieve these sustainability goals. Can you maybe share like an experience where collaboration between maybe two companies made a notable difference, or a potential collaboration you're excited about right now?
Okay, so I think that collaboration is absolutely crucial when it comes to achieving sustainability goals in any industry. No single company can solve the complex challenge of sustainability by its own. So sharing knowledge, resources, and best practices can lead to more innovation and effective solution. This collaboration should aim to achieve industry goals of the target about 30% of greenhouse gases reduction by 2030, and giving us to a transition to a circular system. We achieved B Corporation certification in 2021. That this is a journey that began in 2019 by shifting our main machine, pre-press pressing machine, to more sustainable that avoid air emission in the atmosphere. So we are extremely happy to cooperate with B Corporation industry. So from the secondary packaging, boxes, pallet, we use everything that is reusable and recyclable. We give to the customer a chance to use rPET material, CPET material, and polyolefinic material that for sure that can be reusable more and more. And I think that this is the best solution to promote the sustainability. We are trying to study the washable inks, so you can have a better recyclable in plastic, so you can reuse to the same material.
Okay, great, Alessandro, thank you. And Andreas, do you have maybe some examples of how you collaborated also with other industry players to advance the goals on sustainability?
I agree. You have to, without collaboration, you can't really achieve nothing. And this is, it doesn't have a big project or something like that. It's also small examples with your customers, the other companies that buy from you. For example, like we pool transport, so we only have one transport a week, for example, to like diminish the CO2 put out when having the transports. And the same goes also with our suppliers. When we just like we pick up our material that we need for working, we just do this once a week or even once every 2 weeks. Whatever we can do to like get more out of the truckloads we're using, that's already a big step forward for sustainability. And there's also projects. And I'd like to mention maybe one project we had with an EU-funded agency called Spirit in Slovenia. And they made a project. They had public tenders for sustainable transformation projects. We took part in one of those tenders, and by that you get input outside of your company, from another institution that tells you what you might be doing wrong, what you could do in another way, and maybe they give you new ideas what you can do. And I think in that case we could learn a lot from them, which again helps us like aiming at our goal of sustainability.
Great. And Primož and Rok, I know that you collaborate together, your two companies. Can you give us an example how you might like worked on a project that that's made the companies more sustainable, maybe?
Well, I guess I can give you two examples. One is this recyclable PET. Including basically we are now testing migration of the plastic. So the next step will be introduction. And the second one, well, I would say the same with this organization of the transport. Basically, we are seeking efficiency here. And maybe just to add something that is outside of this scope, which is interesting. We are a part of energy consortium. Basically, we have private companies and universities, and we work together on analyzing our energy peaks. and then we seek efficiency, and basically we are going towards carbon neutrality. I think that because we installed our solar plant in the summer, we will cover about 120% of our electricity needs and about 66% of all of our energy needs. So these are some of the examples that we, maybe Rok, if you want to add something.
One thing that we're also working on, maybe it's also important, is the transport packaging we use for shipment of our products to TOSLA. And with that, we're also looking for solutions where we could use lighter transport options, with also returnable, how to say, like returnable items that we can for the transport use, so that we don't use new materials as much as we did. So that's also one part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this is very interesting to me, because when I hear this, let's say I look at from like your partner point of view, like a reusable packaging, like transport packaging, it will automatically mean more work for me. Did you, let's say, experience a lot of pushback maybe with your partners when you try to introduce that, or are they like happy to do it?
If I can pinpoint out TOSLA now, TOSLA is always very eager when we go into something new that benefits us all. Also in terms of handling the transport packages, it will be easier. So we try to, as you said at the end, or basically all the participants already emphasized that the collaboration is crucial. There always has to be, how to say, incentive on the both sides to get more sustainable. So basically, there has to be a positive attitude at the partner as well as the supplier to follow the partner in their need, because otherwise it just doesn't work. Sustainability is such as a complex thing, and it, of course, in order to be successful, it involves all of us. And there can be too many pushbacks. Otherwise, you don't achieve the desired results, either with your partner or for your partner or inside your own company.
If I may just add, sorry, Matic, maybe just a little bit of background for the listeners. So the EU legislation when it comes to ESG policy is quite strict compared to the rest of the world. And Slovenian legislation is like, I think it's a role model for the rest of the world. So from our perspective, we already now, we have to, we recycle 100% of our waste. So from that point of view, we are just doing fine tuning. So either we go into full recycling of the waste, or we can reuse it. So circular economy really comes to its full potential in the countries that have this kind of regulation already in place compared to the rest of the world. So maybe it's very unfair when we speak about this stuff. It's unfair maybe to the rest of them, or however you see it, of course. But
yeah, so maybe the
starting point is different.
Yeah, so maybe in Slovenia, as you said, like regulations are quite strict, even stricter than like on the EU level. And this was actually my question: is like, how do these regulatory guidelines and rules, but also sustainability standards impact your operations? Alessandro already mentioned that they are B Corp certified. So there's a question for the others, like how much do you follow, let's say, certifications? We can go with Andreas.
Yeah, as a producer of packaging, of cardboard packaging, most important certification we're following is FSC certification, which is Forest Stewardship Council. We commit to use paper or cardboard only from renewable, sustainable sources. and this is controlled over our whole supply chain. So our suppliers and their suppliers. So this is provided by the FSC certification. And on the other hand, when it comes to sustainability, we're following the ISO 14001 certification. This is basically an environmental management system. That means the environmental impact of the company is measured. And this again helps us to improve or to reduce our environmental impact. Basically, there are things like our energy consumption, our water consumption, water usage, our waste disposal is monitored. And so we see this, we report this, and based on that, we can improve on that, or at least try to improve on that. So these are two regulations that are quite strict, and you can see them as like as hurdles, but I would say this is more like supportive, because it also lets us become more competitive. Because if you're not doing that, we said at the beginning, if the consumers are more aware of that, they won't buy your products anymore. And I think you have to offer this, and those standards, and maybe also other standards, they help you in doing that.
Yeah, I would fully agree with Andreas. Basically, the standards are cherry on top, because the legislation and regulations are pushing you. So it's a natural progression that you go into the standards. You don't see it as something that is, something that is an obligation. It's basically a recognition of your work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, and Primož, I know that TOSLA did put a lot of effort into sustainability in the last year or two, and also put a lot of effort into certifications. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how the process was?
Well, as I said, we are obtaining, same as Alessandro said, B Corp. We are waiting for the certification, but I cannot say that it was hard to obtain it or hard to meet the standards, because everything was already in place. And with this 10-year history, we've been going through gradual progression that was following the regulations and also the consumer and the client's demand.
Mm-hmm. And maybe Alessandro, you went through the same process with the B Corp certification. What was your experience with that?
Yeah, too, was not so hard to achieve, because we start 2 years ago, 2 years before, to achieve the certification with shifting the material. So in the meantime, the primary raw material production was starting to do rPET, CPET, and the other recyclable material. So we start to use that, and this is a big gain to achieve this point. So in B Corp, we have environmental impact, social practices, and ethical sourcing. So there is everything that I think that anyone have to follow these practices with B Corp certification or not. And I think that in the long run, the positive reputation gained from adhering in sustainability certification, we will give an initial challenge to get more business.
Yeah, and it's really, as Primož said, I like his how he framed it, that it's more of a recognition of your work and not something that actually pushes you to do it. Looking a couple of years ahead, where do you see the biggest shifts or changing that are going to happen in the, let's say, nutricosmetics supply chain in terms of sustainability? And let's go to Rok, basically to the source of, let's say, because you're making the plastic bottles. Are there maybe new technologies, new innovations that caught your attention? What's coming, basically?
Yeah, basically, as I said, with plastics being the #1 enemy of all the people in this world, the trends and the new developments are basically more impactful, because there's a lot going on in order to be more sustainable also in this regard. You know, as with every solution, also new solutions create problems, as I also mentioned before, with mixing materials, with offering simplistic solutions like pick one material over the other material, which is also not very useful, because then, you know, then everybody has a cotton bag and nobody looks at the effect of wearing that cotton bag. It's not quite that easy, but the developments in our industry are basically now focusing on the point I already also mentioned before, which is getting proper waste effectively, cheaply, and in greater amounts as still now. So basically, what they are trying to do now this is also maybe Alessandro can also tell more, is testing digital watermarks on plastic bottles, which will be recognized by the sensors and by the visual controllers in the recycling facilities, which will, based on the digital watermark of each bottle, plastic jar, whatever it is, define which material it is, because it will be like a digital watermark, not seeable to the naked eye, but seeable to the computer side, and with that, it will be easier to define which material is which, because now, you know, you have mechanical recycling, you have, like, for PET, you cannot recycle black bottles if you don't use like a black master batch that has additives that are recognized by the computer side. So basically, with this digital watermark, this is still early in the phasing in test stage, but with that, it will be easier to obtain enough material. So that's what is most needed, because the equipment after obtaining and sorting the waste stream is already in place, but the definition, the identification of the waste is not that well done. Also because the legislation, you know, in Slovenia we are, I know, 500 municipalities, and not all the municipalities have the same waste bins for, I don't know, for packaging. You have in Ljubljana, in this region, you have them with yellow covers. In Maribor you have them with, I think, with either with red or blue, I don't recall. But with that, of course, you can then confuse people, and you have problems with what goes into which bin, and this thing will probably kind of sort it for the upcoming future. So that's what I'm quite curious about, and I hope it succeeds.
Great, thank you, Rok. And Alessandro, do you maybe have something to add here on the digital watermark?
Yeah, for sure. The main for our market, the main material are CPET, that you can use the shrink sleeve on a PET bottle and recycle inside. You will have the washable inks that separate from the plastic, and you can have the new granulated to reuse. The other material is the PP, polyolefin, that is floatable. So when you waste in the industry of wasting, you can separate the other plastic from this to renew and give another raw material fresh. So I think that the main aim will be the circular economy and this reducing waste packaging.
So we see that in the plastic, let's call it plastic industry, they are making like quite a big steps towards, I see, or like better recycling, better sorting, all this, because I see that this is probably like one of the big hurdles in like why more plastic is not recycled. But let's also touch on Andreas, because you are more or less, let's say, on the safe side, because you work more with paper and cardboard and stuff. What are the innovations and technologies coming in the next years in your industry?
Yeah, because we're the good guys at the moment using paper and cardboard. We don't have to pay that much attention to innovation on the material side, because like paper is renewable. We just have to pay attention that we also use it from renewable sources. But what we do on an individual level is like every other company also does, we're taking a look at our carbon footprint. So we strive to reduce the carbon footprint we have when working with the paper. And from 21 to 22, we were already able to reduce it by 10%, and we aim at another 10% from 22 to 23. And we're doing this basically by installing solar panels on our factory. We bought a new hall, and in the next year we will install another solar panel. And although we're not at 100% self-sufficiency when it comes to electricity, we're already at around 50% right now, which is a lot considering the energy intensiveness of our machines. So this is one thing. And of course, we're working with, trying to improve our digitalization. So we're working with less paper also in our company. And maybe, but this is really only at the beginning, we're trying to work with an AI, artificial intelligence, within our information system that would help us improve and simplify some of the processes we're still using there. Some of them are older and they have to be modernized, but our informational system would be able to help us if we can upgrade it. But this is something we're testing right now. But I think in 5 or in 10 years, this will be a big topic for all companies, I guess.
Thank you, Andreas. And to continue with Primož, and we actually have a question from the audience. And the question is, did you ever consider packing your products into glass bottles instead of plastic to make it more sustainable?
Ooh, yeah. Okay, we are now addressing the elephant in the room. Yeah, we did. We did consider this. We actually spoke a lot about it. And actually from the first risk came from the quality point of view. The question from our quality was, so what if the glass breaks in production? What if we find a piece of glass, if a consumer finds a piece of glass? And then we progressed to the LCA, life cycle assessment, and basically to my astonishment, plastic was better. And maybe someone else can explain this. And the third point of view, because we work a lot with D2C companies, the distribution cost by mail was a problem for them. And I, and all of them were, let's say, at least in my perception, sustainable brands, and they were caring about this stuff, and they calculated for themselves that it didn't make sense, at least for now. Mm-hmm. So I hope I answered this question.
Yeah, and I would also refer to Rok maybe to maybe make up because probably you are aware of this comparison. Do you maybe have something to add? So maybe plastic versus glass.
These are just the simplistic solutions that people think that are most beneficial to the environment, but it's not the case. I can understand it because it's, if you get the wrong information, you tend to offer wrong solutions. And as Primož already said, glass is beneficial for some solutions, but not for all. First of all, one thing is glass is very heavy. The other thing is it uses a lot of energy to produce glass. It's not like plastics. And maybe this is also one of the reasons you should listen to the next panel with Chris the Armit, who is specializing in such questions, which material is used or better in comparison to one another. And for solutions as TOSLA uses, glass for certainly is not, because it uses just too much energy. The transport is of course also then more CO2, uses more CO2 because of the weight of the bottles. So it's not just that easy. I'm not like a prophet. Plastic is the best. It's not the best, but for certain application, it is the same as glass is. for certain applications, the same as packaging is. But you have to follow, as Primož already mentioned, LCA analysis in order to get to the result what is best. Just saying glass is best for every application, just not true.
So if I conclude or like recap, basically you have to look at the thing very, very holistically and not just go for like simplistic solutions and just say one thing is better than the other. And I think there is this kind of a question that that continue to like go around my head, and is really like, what is this definition of like what is sustainable? Is there actually like an objective truth or an objective let's not call it standard, like what sustainable is? And maybe we should like end this this panel with this question to all four of us, like very shortly. What do you think? What you believe that sustainability objectively means? Let's start with Primož, maybe.
Well, you know, it's pretty well defined in the UN guidelines. And I think when you start discussing this topic in the company, you open those guidelines, you go through it, and you find yourself inside, and you basically define goals for yourself. But you know, for me personally, it's just that every day when I enter the production, I have a better feeling about myself being a producer, and that's like a very, very vivid explanation. It comes from inside.
Yeah. Thank you, Primož. Let's go with Alessandro. What does sustainability? What do you think objectively what it means?
Okay, totally agree with Primož, because sustainability is have to be our main goal, because if we love our planet, love the people, we have to follow this kind of guidelines. Because I think that like before, someone asked for glasses instead plastic, but I think that everything starts about the education of the people on the wasting, on the reusing. Maybe you can reuse a bottle and not waste at the first time. So by the little thing, you can use not the plastic for the coffee, but you can bring from your home a glass to reuse. Everything, starting from the water and everything in the cosmetic, everything.
Thank you, Alessandro. Rok, what is your definition?
I would say that sustainability, you know, nobody wants to leave our planet to our kids and our the ones coming afterwards after us in a worse condition that we got it. So basically, we as producers, especially the ones that are present now here at this panel, I think that we also have the same mission to achieve these goals in order to preserve the earth also for the future generations. So, but sustainability as such is like, I would say, like we are all for production and manufacturing, that it's like optimization of the production process. It just never stops, and it goes hand in hand also with the production process. So because of course you get better, and you use less of the materials that you need.
Thank you, Rok. And last but not least, Andreas.
Yeah, I got a similar philosophic point of view about that. What is sustainable? What are sustainable decisions? Not only those that help us now, but like in 20 years, when looking back at the decision, so that we can say, okay, that was the wise thing to do. And if it holds true in 20 years, then it was a sustainable decision and we did the right thing.
And that's a beautiful thought to end our conversation. Thank you guys so much for your insights. I keep learning. I always say this, but really insightful. So thank you again for your contributions.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, so here we conclude our conversation of today's Nutricosmetics 2030 Sustainable Beauty Inside Out live event, where we discussed the supply side's perspective on sustainability and how they make it a part of their business with Primož Artač, Andreas Kunze, Rok Miklavčič, and Alessandro Solcia. Thank you again, everyone, for your participation. Now we will again take a short 5-minute break, and then we're back to go a bit deeper into material science and look into the truth about what actually is and what might not be as sustainable as we think with Dr. Chris Diarmid. So get ready for a little bit of a different point of view than usually. So see you in 5.